not exactly try to start this, so I'm just gonna go straight in. This is the third time that I've had to film this video, and now I'm filming it on a school iPad. My school, don't kill me. I won't keep it on my iPad. I'm just using it for now. I am doing a what I read in June. It was originally going to be what I read in May and June, but that didn't work so well because my phone can't handle having a 20-minute video on it, so I'm just gonna have to deal with this and do it on my iPad for now. Anyways, you have no idea who I am. That's fine, you don't need to, but for my YouTube name is Devin Blue, so hi, I'm Devin Blue, Dev for short. I used to have a YouTube channel called PandaGirl85 when I was 10 or 11, maybe even younger than that, and I brought my friends on and I just pretended like I was some big YouTuber. Now I'm here to talk about books because I've been reading a lot and I love watching people talk about books on YouTube. So like I said, I'm going to do the books that I read in June, and I only read 5 because I read them over the course of a week and a half, so I didn't really get to that many, and I also had to make multiple trips to the bookstore, so I didn't have that many books to read anyways. I'm gonna go right into it, so this video is probably not gonna be very long because I don't even know if this iPad can deal with having a video on it. So the first book that I read last month was Bad Girls Don't Die. Now, I read this in grade 6 and I loved it. It was the first sort of supernatural horror thriller sort of book that I read, and it was funny because it was in the red dot section of the library, and I got a note from my parents to read books from it, and I was like the only kid to do that for some reason. I don't know why everyone else didn't just do it because the books were way better in the red dot section. But I found it and I read it, and then I just remembered that I had read it this year, and I was like, hey, I want to find that book. So I did. It was like $10 at Indigo, although I do prefer to go used books shopping. It just happened that I was at Indigo, so I got it. And I have to say, I think I rated it a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. Not my favorite. I think that reading it again sort of took away from what I thought it was. If I had not read it, I would have thought it was some amazing book that, you know, changed my life. But now that I've read it again, it's sort of like, okay, I understand why I liked it, but it's not amazing. I mean, Katie Allender's writing is pretty good, but it's just not a great book. I did, though, pick up the second one at a used bookstore, so that is on my TBR for July. But, and I'm probably gonna read the third one as well. But I'm probably gonna donate them or sell them after I read them because I do not need to have them on my shelf, but I am intrigued to see what happens in the second and third book. So that's the first book I read. The second book I read is The Silent Patient by Alex, that last name. I'm not gonna try to pronounce it, even though I'm sure it's an easy pronunciation. I mean, I could just be thinking that and completely fooling myself. Maybe it's a very difficult pronunciation. Anyways, I'm going on about his name. The Silent Patient. Oh my gosh, I rated it a 5 out of 5. It is so good. It's the best mystery thriller that I've read in a really, really long time, and it just awed me from the first page to the last page. I recommend this to anybody who likes horror, well, not really horror, but like thriller and mystery. The twist was insane, although I did read a lot of reviews, and a lot of the reviews were like, oh, the plot holes, and oh, like, that was predictable. I don't know how that's predictable. Maybe it's just my teenage mind and I didn't think it was predictable, but oh my gosh. One of the best books that I read this year so far, I have to say. I was just so amazed by it when I got to the twist. And I'm gonna recommend this over and over again because it's so good, and I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy of The Maidens, because if The Maidens is as good as this, then my 2 favorite books of the year are probably gonna be by the same author. The next book I read was They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I have to say, and I'm gonna be completely honest, and if you hate me for it, I'm sorry, I was not a huge fan of this book. I found it a little boring. It was slow, and I think it was a bit jarring to switch from main characters to side characters while there was so much happening and so much plot development. I just think that it was a little bit out of place to have so many side characters in it right from the beginning, And although they were adding to the story and they did accumulate to their own interesting climax and resolution, I just didn't think it was necessary. And the only part that I'd say I enjoyed 100% was the ending, even though I didn't cry, which I really hoped I was going to. It was really sad, and I think that it was perfect in the way that it was done. The ending, I mean. Overall, not my favorite. I think I rated it a 3 out of 5, but I don't know. I'd like to read some other books by Adam Silvera just to kind of see if maybe this wasn't the best book to start out with from, you know, what he's written. But I mean, I'm glad I read it. I definitely think that the story was worth it, but just the way that it was put together was not great for me. The fourth book that I read this month is Elites of Eden. So I have Children of Eden back there, and I read that earlier in the year, and then I decided to pick up a copy of this, and honestly, I was very unimpressed with this because the first one, in my opinion, was just so good and so fresh. I don't really read dystopian novels, so I think it was a good starting point for me. So getting to the second one, it was just like, yes, I got to see all my favorite characters, but I feel like so much was happening so fast, and it felt like the entire book was just a repeat of the first one, but with more filler. So I don't like that everything was like event after event after event. There was no pause, there was no like time to think. It was just almost no plot development either, even though there was. It's hard to explain, but I just think it was a little messy. Although I love Joey Graceffa, I have In Real Life back there as well, and I love that one. I read it in May. I just have to say that I was thoroughly unimpressed with this one, but I will read Rebels of Eden because I want to see how the trilogy ends. So the fifth book that I read this month is probably also one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far, and that is My Dark Vanessa. Wow. I don't necessarily know if I would recommend this book. I mean, I would recommend it, but at the same time, I feel like some of the content is just uncomfortable for some people, and I don't want to make people uncomfortable. So, you know, read, but, you know, just be careful. It was a thoroughly interesting and disturbing book. I was, you know, within the first chapter, I was just completely enthralled by the writing and by the plot. Honestly, I felt like I could sort of connect with Vanessa and her character because, you know, she was 15 when when everything happened to her, at least in the beginning. And, you know, I'm 15 right now, so it's sort of being able to find those similarities in her personality. And, you know, I found that I sort of was able to sympathize with her, and I feel like the way that I think is similar to the way that she thinks, not in like the whole dating a teacher way, but a lot of her emotions and the way that she deals with things is similar to the way that I do. So I was able to really connect with the book through the fact that I'm the same age as that character and have a similar thought process to her. I loved the ending. I did think that it was a little anticlimactic, but I think that it was supposed to be that way because it leaves you thinking. So I guess it wasn't really anticlimactic as it was just a good ending. You know, it was an ending. I almost read this in a day, but I read it in 2. It was beautiful. The writing in some places was very poetic, and I would like to go back, reread it, and annotate because it had a lot of amazing quotes in it. And it makes me want to read Lolita just to be able to understand a lot of what's going on in it, but I'm also hesitant to do that because if this one made me uncomfortable, then I know Lolita will, but we'll see. Also, I think I'm saying that right, but I might not be. Anyways, I think I rated this a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, and I might actually go back and change it to 5 out of 5 because I really thoroughly enjoyed this novel. So that was what I read. That was my wrap up for June. I will be posting a TBR. If this video goes up and I'm able to do this with no complications, I will post a TBR tomorrow, or like I will post a TBR at some point, but I am going to go book shopping over the weekend, so maybe I'll post a TBR later in the month after I go book shopping so that I can add those. But yeah, I realized that this video is pretty short. but I'm still trying to figure out how to film the videos and how to edit them, so once I get all that figured out, then it should be fine. I'm gonna link my Goodreads in the description, so if, you know, there's someone out there interested in seeing what I've read this year and what I want to read and, you know, my favorite books and stuff like that, then they can go check that out. And I didn't know how to do an intro. I don't know how to do an outro. So that is all, and I will most likely be posting a TBR soon for July. So yeah, that's it.